Welcome. My name is Chris Lennon. I'm the founder of a company called Voizu Software, and this video I'll be giving you an introduction to the Frappe framework. So if you are curious about the Frappe framework, you've heard about it, maybe you're evaluating it, you're in that phase of pulling all the information together, this will be a great video to watch because I'm going to quickly go through the various strands that make up the Frappe framework. I always think good to start at the beginning. And Rushabh Mehta founded what is now Frappe Software and ERP Next, 2006. So this is going back a ways now. Very humble beginnings. So what is now Frappe ERP Next started in a furniture store actually, which was the family furniture store. And Rushabh was the geek. He'd fresh out of a university degree, I believe. Couldn't find a ERP system to help manage the company, obviously customers, invoices, all that sort of stuff, tax. So we built one, as all geeks do. And that is how it started. He made a couple of good choices in hindsight. One was Python, which is obviously a very popular language, and even becoming more so with the rise of data science, and open source. Open source meaning that anyone who wants to can come in on and collaborate on the software, which wasn't a lot back then, but now is hundreds of people from all around the world collaborating. We're going to, firstly, let's just define it a little bit. So Frappe Framework is an open source rapid application development framework on top of which apps such as ERP Next are developed. So rapid application development been around for quite a while in computer science. Basically, how can we build high quality applications quickly so we can be agile and we can adapt. In terms of what's out there by way of resources, Frappe the company, the framework, quick look at GitHub, and then I'll just show you the forums just so you know that there are forums basically. So Frappe the company, here at frappe.io, and you can see here ERP Next, the most well-known Frappe application ERP system. Then there's cloud, another framework, and also applications from anywhere from HR, CRM, help desk. So it's really quite a large range of pre-built applications, and obviously you can build your own using the Frappe framework. Let's have a look at Frappe framework itself. So frappeframework.com. Here's another definition from the company itself. Full stack, batteries included, web framework. So batteries included meaning you don't just get a technical platform, but you get a business platform as well. So business objects, etc., which I'll explain a little bit as we go through. Open source software means you'll find it often in GitHub, which is the case here. So the source code here, Frappe, and yeah, just as you'd expect, a bunch of code. The forum, you see here, there's a Frappeverse coming in Mumbai in October. So if you're anywhere near Mumbai, that's probably a good thing to go to if you're interested in this world. Great place to get help, very active community. So you're not on your own if you get stuck. Really good rate of answering questions, rapid response time, but it's community. It's the community helping each other. So that is just a whistle-stop tour through what's out there. Okay, architecture. So let's get a little bit more technical now. Python is what's on the foundation here. Let me just see if I can move myself out of the way. Here we go. Okay, so we have the Python environment. Database is MariaDB and or Postgres, and it's one database per site, and I'll explain sites a little bit, but it's multi-tenancy as well within that site or within that environment. And the stack, Node.js, so JavaScript, Werkzeug, no guarantees I'm saying that correctly, but that's used as a web server in the local environment if you're developing on your local. Redis for your caching. Background jobs, so a framework to run tasks asynchronously, longer running tasks. So this is the diagram on the Frappe Framework website. I've added a couple because things have moved on a little bit, I think, since that diagram. Socket.io for real-time communications, and in a production environment, it'll be served over Nginx. The other things that are worth calling out, Bench. Bench is a CLI tool, so command line. So if you're building Frappe apps, then you're going to be using Bench. It just makes a lot of stuff a lot easier. On top of this platform are your applications, so the apps do the heavy lifting, if you like. Frappe itself, Frappe is I guess, a super app. So it doesn't make sense to say I'm developing a Frappe application, Frappe framework application, but I'm not using Frappe as an app. The Frappe is what powers everything, basically, including the desk, which is a really sophisticated UI. So something you look at on the web and it will show it. But desk is key part. And then aside from Frappe, which is obviously the super app, you can have the apps you want, so ERP Next, but that's not required. You build your own custom apps, etc. And the final layer, I suppose, which is going from most sort of back end to most front end in terms of what this is here, is websites. So you can have a number of websites sitting within what Frappe calls a bench or a bounded environment. You could have a local one, and in a production environment, you might host them on your domain. So that is, I know that's a lot, but yeah, really good way of sort of thinking about the various components. But we're technical, so we want to get into the code. So hopefully you can see this okay. I'm going to come and move myself down a little bit. And so we're in a bench directory. So we've created this bench directory from a bench command, funnily enough, bench init. And I'm just going to go really quickly through here. Apps, you can see here that for me, I've installed the CRM, the ERP Next software, and Frappe, which is always there. Archived, if you're archiving a site, it gets put there. Configuration, environment is where the various files that are required to run the framework and whatever custom applications you've written live. So various bins, a bunch of Python stuff in there. Logs, pretty self-explanatory, various database logs and calls, etc. And sites, if you remember, if we go back to the architecture real quick, we have sites on the top. So this is where the sites live, and they're reasonably thin, I guess you could say. They're serving out the content, but it's the apps that are doing the heavy lifting. So there's a lot more there. Obviously, there's documentation, etc., but that's at a very high level what a bench environment will look like. I've installed the Frappe framework, so this video doesn't go into that. You can do it from a container, or you can do it what they call bare metal. If you're using bare metal, have a look in the forums, because there's some useful stuff, and even I think a script in the forums. We didn't actually show the forum, so let's just quickly do that now. Oh, we did show the forums. My apologies. So there are the forums again. Okay, so we're here. We're in a bench environment. What does that mean? Well, it means we have the bench CLI tool because we've installed it. So I can, on the command line here, go bench version and 5.22.6, and there's a bunch of other stuff, other bench commands. If I go bench help, then you'll see here there's heaps of bench commands, but they're all helping you build and run Frappe applications. Let's put it all together. So what does this thing look like? Well, we can run a Frappe framework site locally. To do that, we need that local web server going, and that command is bench start. So let's go ahead and type bench start, and you'll see that does a bunch of stuff and starts that local web server. What does that give us? Well, that gives us the Frappe UI. So we'll just zoom this in a little bit more. Yeah, so you can see here the Frappe CRM. Let's reload that, just because we've restarted our web server. So the first load may take a little time. You can see here that it's running on port 8004. So this is taking a little bit longer than you hope. It's always the way with demos, but here we are. All right, so we're home. So various modules on the side here, and shortcuts, etc. So we're not really going to talk too much about the product itself, other than to say there's a single instance, and then the various apps that are installed kind of share this UI. So you can either have menus on the left here, or in the case of the CRM, it's a little bit different because they've done it as a portal, if you like. So here's a similar look, but just a little bit more modern, a bit cleaner. And if you want to go back to the bench, you switch back to the the application here. What are the desks? Sorry, I always get desk and bench confused because they're both flat objects for preparing stuff, but the desk is what is running the UI. So that's probably as deep as we're going to go. It's runs on a local server, and you can do cool stuff with it. The last kind of major area to hit, I think, if you're going to have a proper introduction to Frappe Framework, is doc types. Obviously there's a bunch of stuff in there, the code, etc. But doc types are so sort of pivotal, it makes sense to define them. So they define your data structure and your layout, which is a little bit unusual, what Frappe calls infrastructure. Metadata as data. So the metadata, the definition, and even the presentation is considered data. So they define the data structure, the layout, visual layout. And within Frappe, you've got some core doc types, things like a user doc type, for example, and then an application can have their own doc types. So the structure of a doc type is stored in the source code. We'll have a look. But the instances of that doc type are stored in the database. So for example, you might have an account doc type defining the structure, and then in your database you'll find your accounts table mapped one-to-one. I'll show that, which is all your account objects. And you can create doc types within the desk itself. So that's what makes Frappe just that rapid application. Even within a UI, you can go ahead and do stuff that for most frameworks you'd be up for coding. What does all this look like in the code? Well, if you go to, let's say, ERP Next, the ERP system, we're diving into ERP Next. We see accounts, and then we see doc type, and within this doc type we see account, and within account we have a JSON object. So you can see here, let me just move myself again, not that one. But you can see this account object, and you can even see in here there's things like column break 1, which is quite unusual because although this is a data structure, it's also defining the layout. So that's the code side of things. And if we were to go to the database, so you can see here, let's see if we can zoom this in a bit more. Which we can in terms of text, but you may not be able to read this tab account. So tables have this tab prefix. You have the account doc type mapped to the tab account table in the database, the MariaDB database. And here's all the objects. In this case, they are general ledger accounts, cash in hand, current assets, etc. So that's just a really quick overview of the the doc type object. There's a lot more I could say, but this is an introduction. They can be created within the desk. So let's just have a quick play with this. So let's say I'm developing a custom application, and let's say, I don't know, it's a property management, let's say. So you can't find a property management application. You want to manage properties. It's not a super uncommon thing to do, and you might say this is a rental property document, and module, it's going to live in the accounts. Just an example, basically. So you've created there a new document type, and then it will take you in there, and then you can add a field, And so you see here a bunch of fields in here: data, floats, HTML. So really powerful, which is what gives Frappe its rapid application power. So we'll just add a data, just a regular data field, and we'll call it property address. Save that. Bunch of other stuff as well you can do there, make it compulsory, etc. And that's just added a renew rental property. So now you add them and you've got all the sort of power of the framework here, including a list view, etc. Yeah, so you can add new properties, etc. I want to add a rental property here. Address is 1 Smith Street. I wasn't actually going to go this deep, but it's kind of fun to see what the framework can do. And now I've added it here. It's given it a random number, but obviously you can change that through how you deal with primary keys, etc. And now we have one with a rather unfriendly name of RG7T, but you'd want to change that, put the address in there. You get the general idea. Okay, so wrapping up, hosting. How are we going to host all this stuff? You got a few choices. You can run it locally. So Ubuntu is generally the operating system of choice. Doesn't run on Windows, so you're up for dual boot and all that stuff if you're going to get into some serious local development. You can host it yourself. So you can host it, for example, on AWS, and Frappe Cloud, it hosts on AWS. It's the provider they've chosen. There's even an open source infrastructure component called Press, and if you look here, this is a sort of a very high level node cluster. So you've got a proxy server, application database server. So yeah, it's a pure choice where you want to go. Frappe Cloud hosts Frappe applications and it has some nice stuff with bench commands built in. You can host ERP Next for $10 a month, $10 a month. 20 at the time of this podcast, 25 will give you the ability to load your own custom apps, and 50 you get support and ability to connect directly to the database. Okay, gosh, that's been a whistle-stop tour. Done. So Chris Lennon, and I can be reached at chris@voizu.com, voyzu.com, and we are Frappe implementers, customizers. So if you need anything done, just pop us an email. Thank you so much, and we'll see you in another podcast.